Very good morning to you.
Morning,
You survived the storm. Was anything flying past your window last night?
It was, yeah. You could really hear everything just being battered against windows, and you know that feeling, especially in sort of a central London, anyway, of big buildings and wondering what's going to fly off the side of a scaffolding next.
Well, I was driving back up from Sussex on Saturday, sort of late afternoon, and I narrowly avoided a cone which was coming at me down the M25.
Well,
and I was like, whoa.
Do that on a bike. Yeah, it wasn't fun on a bike.
Not fun on a bike. Right, well, I've told you about that before, but you won't listen to me. But there is quite a lot of sort of, shall we say, aftermath to deal with, because hundreds of flights were cancelled at Heathrow Airport. Storm Bert caused travel chaos, trains axed, roads closed. You can see some of the flooding dangers that happened over in Wales. And, you know, Welsh First Minister saying the floods are absolutely devastating. You know, in situations like this in other countries, normally the leader of the country would go and have a look and see what the damage is, but I can't imagine Keir Starmer will get out of his Westminster bubble to bother actually going to Wales.
Well, no, he made it to Arsenal to watch his beloved Arsenal on Saturday, which is all well and good.
How nice
but I haven't seen him in a pair of wellies going down to see this. And, you know, of course people are going to start bleating on about climate emergency. Right. Do you know what? It's November. It's the end of November.
It's like this every year.
And it is, yeah. This kind of extreme, well, not extreme weather, but this kind of severe weather is what we get every year.
Daily Star says we're going to have 5 more storms by Christmas. Atlantic tempests, that's a good word, I haven't used that for a while, and snow to disrupt December. Well, it's December.
It is December.
I mean, when I was a kid, a lot longer ago than when you were a kid, there used to be snow every single winter. We used to walk, you know, there was like 2 feet of snow outside my house in North London. Yeah, and we did have a few flakes of snow in London in the last few days, and everybody up north has obviously had snow. What's you know, interesting about this is always the front page of the papers have these pictures of people just wringing kind of cloths and sweeping the water, getting your house flooded, the damp afterwards, the trying to dry everything out. And also the insurance, which is difficult. I mean, I had the misfortune of having my house flooded many years ago when I lived in Wiltshire. But it was all the result, actually, of farming techniques changing, because we used to live in this village where there was a big field behind the house, which had been used for sort of putting horses in, and it had high, you know, loads of grass in it, and they ploughed it. And as soon as they ploughed it, of course, the water just ran off it into the back of our house.
Well, it was exactly what we saw when we were talking about this in Spain last week. When you take away the dams that the Romans built for a reason, guess what? You know, you get catastrophic flooding.
In Wales, I'm told, and we might be talking to Jamie Jenkins about this later on, that they've taken loads of trees out of Wales, right? They've cut them all down, and the trees used to actually absorb, guess what? The water in the ground.
Guess what? Probably to put in solar panels and pylons. Probably,
no doubt. Let's talk about this amazing petition which went up at the weekend. It's been put there by a pub owner, hasn't it? Yeah. Who just was so fed up with Labour government, he thought, let's see if we can get a petition going. And it's now reached 1.8 million people signed.
This petition is fantastic. I know a lot of people that are on Petition Watch. You know, people texting each other going, it's on 1.8.
I've literally got it on a clock here on my left on the screen.
Honestly, Mike, I think for some of us it's just the first thing that's given us any hope. And I know they will ignore it. Yeah. But why? Why are they ignoring it? Why will they? I know that's the way democracy works, but democracy also works in that when millions of people are very unhappy about a situation and feeling desperate about their country, there should be some way that they can express that view in a peaceful way.
Yes.
In an absolutely dignified way. We're signing this, and there are millions of other people in the country who aren't online, who aren't going to be able to sign it.
Of course. And the argument, of course, is not so much that, you know, they're going to have to give in and have another election. That's not what they will do, because then there's no constitutional reason to do that. But they will have to discuss it in some way, shape or form in Parliament, because it's reached through the 100,000 level. But the other interesting thing for me is that people are saying, look, it's not so much that we think the election was a bust, or that it wasn't right, or it wasn't really done. However, they lied, and you know, their manifesto manifestly lied, and none of the things that they're now doing was in their manifesto.
And what I like about what you just said there was that, you know, this is kind of a petition for a genuine for a genuine manifesto, for some honesty. Yeah. Because what they're doing now is exactly what we haven't. No one was told about this. I don't even think that they knew that they were going to start going completely crazy.
No. Well, I see now as well that, you know, after all of the arguments last week about the farming tax and the inheritance tax, that Keir Starmer actually coming out and saying that BBC Verify had verified the fact that it was not actually quantify, you know, make it up as you go along. Basically, they said, you know, this is going to only affect large landowners, loads of people with loads of money, not going to affect farmers. Now their own tax advisor, Dan Needle, who is a Labour tax advisor, has actually says that the budget proposal doesn't go far enough enough to stop avoidance, but it goes too far in how it applies to actual farms. So he's actually now contradicting what the Prime Minister said, and he's saying this is actually going to affect an awful lot of ordinary working farmers.
But also, Mike, why on earth, this is what I don't understand about this line, oh, it'll only affect a few hundred farmers, it'll only affect the wealthiest. Why then did thousands and thousands, I don't know how many in the end.
It looked like about 25 to me.
Did, yeah, in the tens of thousands of farmers make their way to London on an absolutely dire, it was sleeting, it was snow, they left their farms at 3 in the morning. Why on earth were they turning out to protest if it was only going to affect a few farmers? You answer me that, because they have nothing to gain. They came to protest because they are worried, because they're worried about what that does to their finances and their ability to hand down what they've done, their life's work, to their families.
Exactly, and as we discovered at the end of last week, the 500 million that they say they're going to get from this farming inheritance tax, they're going to give away, right, to farmers in Asia and Africa and South America. For what? For climate change.
Oh, and yeah, well, let's get on to climate change later, because that is just, you know, when you look at how many billions we're all just, well, they're
239 billion pounds.
They're pledging on our behalf to give to these developing countries.
What the hell are they doing? I mean, we haven't signed up to any of this. 230. Apparently, we give them 100 billion at the moment. This is not all just from the UK.
Not nearly enough.
It's from the EU and the US as well. Basically, any developed nation. And of course, as you might expect, on the front page of the Guardian, they're all moaning that it's not good enough. Climate deal is a travesty of justice.
It's abysmally
say the poor nations, right? Also, why did the climate conference still go on for another week after all the like Starmer came back over a week ago? Presumably, our 470 delegates were still there for another week. How much is that costing us? 2
weeks every year. COP is 2 weeks. It's not even. I mean, this stuff should be on Zoom.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. It said developing nations had called on rich countries to provide them with £1 trillion a year to help them. It's a great racket, this, isn't it?
It's
you just turn up
racket.
with a begging bowl and you go, give us £1 trillion. £1
trillion annually.
Yeah, unbelievable. So the final deal sets a pledge of just, according to The Guardian, $300 billion.
Set to rise, so they want it to gradually reach towards the trillion mark.
What are they doing with all this money?
Literally, what are they doing? It's such a racket. But just to go back to the petition, Mike, you say, well, obviously they're not going to take any notice of it. Obviously, you know, that's not the way it works.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I wonder whether in this new digital era, the fact that millions of people are signing up online and are almost running their own election and are saying, no, we're not asking to throw Labour out, although of course that's what we're asking for. We're asking for another general election. Why is that not valid?
Yeah, well, I'm not saying it's not valid. I'm just saying that the fact that they will try to ignore it is proof, in fact, that it is a massive thing that's happening. And, of course, the fact that the BBC isn't covering it is another massive thing.
Bizarre that they're not even covering it.
The fact that Sky isn't covering it is another massive thing. The other thing, of course, that's happening out there on digital land is that all the lefties are going, oh, of course, just get over it, you lost, you know, I'll see you in 5 years' time. And then they say, oh, 6 million people signed the petition to rejoin the European Union, so Boo sucks.
They're constantly moving the goalposts. Oh, it's all signed by bots. No, it's not. It's not actually all being signed by bots. You know, everybody's forwarding it on. Everybody is signing up.
Sure.
And
it probably will. I mean, it may well reach 6 million for all we know. You know, it's going up as we speak. It's
does it matter?
It's 1,806,000. When I woke up this morning, it was below 1.8 million, and it's now still only 6:15 in the morning. So most people haven't woken up yet.
3 million by the end of today.
I think it will certainly, possibly, because all things happen in my show, it might reach 2 million by the time we get to 9 o'clock, 9:30. So we shall see. Lots of other stories to talk about, of course, as well. We've got the CBI on the front pages of the Times, as I say, because this week we've got Liz Kendall talking about a benefits crackdown. Let's have a look at what she had to say on Laura Kunsberg's show yesterday.
We need to look at the system of benefits and reform or replace the work capability assessment because it's not working. It's not working for the people who depend on it, and it's not working for the taxpayer
But
either.
I just want to be really clear on what you will do, because the plans that you inherited from the former government would mean that more than 400,000 people would be denied maybe as much as £400 a month. You want to make that saving. You want to get the money out of the system.
We will deliver those savings, but we will bring forward our own reforms. You'll hear more about this when we launch our white paper on Tuesday.
Yeah, so she's been a bit reluctant to say what she'll do to people who continually refuse to get a job, even though they're on unemployment benefit, because in other countries they make you go and work. If you want to continue to claim benefits, you just can't. After 6 months in America, you've got to get a job. If you don't get one, that's the end of you.
Yeah, but there's money. I just struggle with Labour. There's money for illegal immigrants. There's money for their accommodation and their private healthcare and also private dentistry, transport here, there and everywhere. But I know genuinely, I know people who are long-term sick, disabled in this country who are terrified right now. And of course I don't agree with, you know, benefits Britain and people just sitting around on the sofa on their phones. No. But there seems to be money for everybody except British people.
Well, the problem is that there's now a perception that if you're a working person, I was talking to the guy driving me in this morning, who's a normal working guy, trying to make a living, trying to keep his family, you know, with a roof over their head and get food for them on the table, working at 5 o'clock in the morning, driving idiots like me to work, right? Trying to do his best, and he's getting pummeled everywhere he goes. He said every single pound that I earn is getting taken more and more out of it by either my council tax going up or food prices going up or energy. He said the energy cap's risen again, energy prices going up. Ordinary people can't afford to live, and as a result of that, these idiots in government should be helping them rather than hindering them, but they're not.
They should be helping them, and, you know, we say charity begins at home, and say the same with pensioners. There's just this sense that, you know, really, we can just give away, there is plenty of money if you want it. If you want to give the train drivers a raise, if you want to give it to Ukraine, fine. If you want to give it to developing nations, fine. But genuine working people, it's no wonder people like your driver think, well, what's the point? You know, what's the point? I might as well try and claim benefits because
then you get your council tax paid,
everything paid
you'll get
for
your housing allowance, you'll get your rent paid. It's an absolute nonsense. And so in the end, there may well be certain people who can't work because they're ill, but we also know there's an awful lot of people who say they're ill who are not ill. I'm suffering from anxiety,
mental health,
and I can't go out because, you know, it's Monday, but I can go out on Tuesday and Wednesday, but I can't really do Friday because I'm anxious.
Of course.
Come on.
And that's what this country created with lockdown. They created a generation, and I think it's appalling, it's a travesty of what we've done to the young people. Barely any of them are working because they've all got anxiety disorders, this mental health kind of creeping
but they especially have them on a Monday and a Friday.
Of course they do, and they especially have them when they want to stay home and, you know, when the weather's rubbish and they don't want to go out, but they've got money for other things. So there's so many different issues here. But I just think that, you know, Liz Kendall, frankly, do you think she knows what she's announcing on Tuesday or in her white paper?
No,
I mean, you can see them all scrabbling away thinking, well, we'll deal with that one when we get to it.
Yeah, they're frightened of their own shadows, most of these people. Let's get a voice note from Liam before we break.
Good morning, Mike. Liam in Folkestone here. Now, with regard to this petition, 1.8 million signatures is brilliant in such a short amount of time. It sends a clear message to Tier 3 Gear Keir that we hate him. But he'll stand up in the comments and say, election was called, people have spoken, and he won't actually act on it. Of course he won't, because he's scared. He wants to ride this out.
He won't want to talk about it. We'll come back to it because it's got a break. He won't want to talk about it, which is why we want to talk about it, because we want to make him feel as uncomfortable as possible. That is the mission of us here at Talk. We'll be back after this.